Welcome to Breaking Beliefs. My name is Amy Vetter, and this is where we explore the thoughts that shape our lives and our work. Each episode uncovers how challenging our limiting beliefs creates space for authentic growth and sustainable success. Let's break some beliefs together. Hi, welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs, where I interview Ariege Misherghi. She is the SVP and GM of AP, AR, and the Accountant Channel at Bill. She is a dynamic leader with over 2 decades of experience and has a proven track record of driving growth and delivering innovative solutions for small and mid-sized businesses for accounting professionals. She joined Bill in late 2024 and brings extensive experience in leading teams and transforming businesses, with a passion for empowering businesses through intelligent, automated financial solutions that free them to focus on what matters most. She's been recognized by Accounting Today as a top 100 most influential person and by the Silicon Valley Business Journal as a woman of influence, and holds a bachelor's in science, technology, and society with a concentration in computer science from Stanford University. During this interview, we talk about Ariege's beginnings, where she started with an immigrant family and learned from her humble upbringings that education and gratitude are 2 of the most important values that have led a string of her path to success in her career, and found that by being curious, it has allowed her to stay humble and let go of the ego, so she is constantly learning and being open to what's new. During this interview, you're going to learn about her curiosity around technology and how reinventing financial operation workflows through new AI tools are some of the most exciting things coming to help the accounting profession not only be able to process their information more accurately, but give them back more time so that they can spend more time with their clients and truly be in that advisory relationship. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Ariege. There's so many great nuggets in here to learn from in her journey. And if you do, please share this with your friends, your colleagues, someone that this will be helpful to along the way. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Beliefs. I'm very excited today to have Ariege Misherghi from Bill, and she is the SVP and GM for the ARAP and the Accountant Channel. Ariege, I'm so excited to have you. You want to just give a little background on yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you got it. My job at Bill is to build an intelligent financial operations platform. We serve almost
That's it.
500,000 small businesses and 9,000 accounting firms. We move 1% of GDP. The scale is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's what I do. My job is really to chart the company's future path through exceptional product experiences that solve my customers' problems.
That's awesome. Well, so excited to hear how you got to where you are today. So why don't we just start? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do as their background?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Fremont, California. It was a great family-oriented neighborhood. My parents are immigrants from North Africa. We were one
Wow.
of 4 kids growing up, and my mom actually had a kid when I was in college, so total of 5. But growing up, it was like the 4 of us, 2 girls, 2 boys. Like that was my life.
Wow. When did your parents immigrate to the US?
Yeah, they came in the '80s, early '80s. I was born in '82. They were here before that. Yeah.
And why did they come from North Africa?
Yeah, so my dad was getting his PhD in the UK, and things in North Africa. We were from Libya under Gaddafi's rule were like not totally
Mm.
stable. And so my dad had a brother in California, and they were fortunate enough to be able to come out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what was it like watching their climb throughout your childhood? Because that must have been a lot moving from another country and trying to make it here.
It's funny. I didn't think that it was terribly exceptional because I think I lived in a community, of like mostly immigrants. And, my,
Mm,
my parents' friends were immigrants when I went to school. It was a lot of, it was just like a super diverse kind of experience. I think Fremont was at the time like one of the most diverse cities in America. So it didn't seem terribly exceptional. But what was really striking for me, Amy, was I think, just realizing how different my life was than like my cousins who lived back in North Africa. You know what I mean?
mm, mhm. What was their life like?
I don't so I remember that, like, if I were to just recall, like, my own experience, I remember that we didn't have, much, but I didn't really feel like we were lacking anything. Like, I don't know, put it this way, I knew better than to ask for anything, you know? But one of the things that we did every now and then was when we could afford it, we would, my mom would take my siblings and I would go back to Libya. And my parents were from, huge families. So we'd get there and I just get like totally lost in a sea of families and just like all families, so awesome. Like life there was so different. Here were like all these people that I barely knew, who loved me. This is before like, we could like chat on our phones, right? So
Right, yeah.
they all knew who I was, but I didn't know any of them, but it was just amazing to be around so much, like, open reception, and I just like, I noticed, like, some really stark differences even at a really young age, and I think that just left such a huge impression on me. So you asked me, like, what specifically, maybe I'll give you, like, one example.
Yeah.
One of my mom's brothers, my uncle, I had met him for the first time. I was under 10, I don't know, it was, like, 7 or 8 or something like that. And, I didn't realize until the moment that, like, I reached out to shake his hand,
Mhm.
and, like, say hello, that he was nonverbal. And it kind of, like, jolted me as a really young kid.
Yeah.
But not because I wasn't, like, exposed to that. Actually, in Fremont, there's, like, a world-renowned school for the deaf, and, like, it's, like, very common in our neighborhood for me to, like, see people talking with their hands. But I think the thing that was, like, most jarring was to realize that, like, I knew more American Sign Language than my uncle because of the lack of access. So, like, those kinds of experiences for
Mhm.
me just, like, I think they just fostered this, like, very strong sense of gratitude. Like, I wake up, Amy, every morning, like, with so much gratitude for what I have, and I think about it every night before I go to bed, like, just this very strong sense of appreciation. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. And when your parents so your dad, did he ended up teaching as a professor, or was he getting his PhD here in the US?
So he did teach as a professor actually at Fresno State, but, most of his career, he was like a satellite engineer, and so, like, I
Mm.
don't know, he didn't do much with that. He was, like, in chip development, he's, like, deep into,
Oh,
like,
okay.
computers and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
you eventually went
Yeah, exactly. I
as
felt
well.
like my dad was an engineer, and so I thought I should be one too. That's just
Yeah.
yeah.
And your mom, did she work, or was she at home with you all?
Yeah, when we were in I think my mom was, like, going through her own, like, discovery journey. Like, she was when
Mhm.
she came to the States, like, she was in her early 20s, and,
Mm.
you know, at that time, like, being so far away from your family, she primarily
Mhm.
spoke Arabic, just feeling kinda disconnected. She kind of went through this, like, journey herself of, like, first staying, like, anchored in, like, people who were like her, but then getting more exposed to, like, our neighbors and people in the community and, like, broadening her connections and then discovering community college and getting her degree. By the
Mm.
time we were in high school, she was a teacher, and she
Wow.
just, like, put herself through this, like, education journey, totally self-motivated. You know what I mean? To, like,
Mhm.
push herself, and it was awesome to see her transform. I mean, she
It
was an
is
amazing
awesome.
mom and, like, just warm and loving, and our house was so, like, just warm is the word that comes to mind, and so, like, when she was, like, ready, got to a point where she was ready to start working, it was just like, "Go mom, like, yeah, you're ready. You set us up well, and, like, we're ready for you to move on." You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah, and, just to probably from her point of view, just to see that it was possible for her here, 'cause
Yeah.
that may have not been possible where she was from.
Well, what's interesting is like people have a different perspective of Libya than what it was. Like Libya is a very, very metropolitan, like super modern place. Like I always, used to say like my mom came here in a miniskirt. She actually became
Oh.
religious later on in life, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
like it's a super modern place, and all of that is possible for you. I think the difference was just economically, Libya didn't have the infrastructure support to enable the kind of economic growth that would allow people to really like explore super broadly. So in that sense, like because of all the embargoes that were going on at the time, it was like kind of a closed off country. But the
Hmm.
people and their history were just like not that way. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, and where were you in the order of children?
I'm number two.
Okay.
Yeah, the older sister, but I always say like I was number two, but I kind of acted like number one. I don't know if my sister
Uh,
would agree, but yeah.
so, what was it like for you growing up? Like, what were you envisioning yourself to be? Just watching your parents on their journey and being part of that immigrant community. I'm sure you saw a lot of struggle there.
The thing that I remember most is just my parents emphasizing the importance of education. And I think also because of my experience, with my family in Libya, just that strong sense of gratitude that I had also kind of turned into fuel for me of like, oh my gosh, I have all these opportunities. Like, how do I throw myself into them? Like, if
Mhm.
there is an opportunity, I want to attack it. And all of that served me well, like the positive pressure from my parents. And I think my nature, was like, I was like very into achievement and like that combination of like the gratitude, my parents, and just my own nature. So I like totally threw myself into education. Like I would skip home from school to do my homework. I was that, you know what I mean? And I guess I always like I didn't know. I knew that I wanted to learn, but I didn't know what I wanted to do after that. And so you
Okay.
could ask me about like my dad and what my mom do and that kind of thing. I think I just went down the engineering path because it seemed interesting. Like there were always computers around our house and I would like
Mhm.
build them up and like, just like make machines and things. So I just because that was so present in my life, I kind of went in that direction and I, studied CS in college, but I didn't really think about like post college. I think like growing up, I just thought like a college was kind of the end. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
about it that deep.
yeah. Because that was the end of the learning.
Yeah, that was the end of the learning. That's I think what all my ambition was pointed to, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So, your father, did he ever talk to you about the computers that were around the house or teach you anything about it?
You know what's funny? I wouldn't say so. Like my dad was present, but he was not like super involved in our lives like to that degree. Like my
Mhm.
mom was pretty much the nurturer, the caretaker. What I got from my dad was like, hey, education matters. And if I needed help with my math homework, he was around. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but like and then of course just like values and ethics and like how to be a good person. But aside from like, hey, lean in on school, like they didn't really pressure me, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
And so where'd you go to college?
I went to Stanford.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you went there, did you know what you were going to
Oh my God.
do there, or how did you make your decision?
No, so this is interesting. I kind of generally thought I would be an engineer, so I kind of set myself up that way. I didn't really enter college feeling totally at liberty to do a ton of exploration. And
Mhm.
that mantra that we have now of like, "Hey, do what you love, find your passion." Ha ha ha. Like that was not a mantra I had or carried or
No.
like,
Yeah.
I could even apply to myself. I felt like I guess once I got to college, I just felt a sense of like, okay, now I have to pay it forward. Now I have to find a career that can be like like a stable source of income. That's kind of
Mhm.
what I was thinking at the time is
Yeah.
like, do I get stability, not just for myself, but for my family? Like, how do I help everybody? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And again, that didn't come from like a place of pressure. It came from a place of gratitude. Like, oh my gosh, I've been afforded so much like goodness in my life. How do I pay that back? Really was kind of
Mhm.
the thought. And it just so happened that I love to code. Like, it was actually really fun. But I ended up, like, in my later years in college, I ended up kind of shifting my focus. So it was a CS degree, but it was a degree at Stanford called Science, Technology, and Society, STS,
Mm.
which is the study of, like, the connection and the
Oh.
interplay between people and society and culture and the technologies that are built and how they're used and how they're influenced in both directions. So there was definitely, like, a component of humanities in there, which I always found really, really interesting. But, like, I didn't know what to do with an STS degree. I just figured, like, I don't know, then you go code, like, that's what's next. I had no idea.
Well, and that's class just seems so before its time too,
Yeah,
because
100%.
at that time, you wouldn't even have known what computers were gonna do. The internet was so new and all of it.
100%. So, yeah, I went to school in the early 2000s and, the internet was very real, but, like, it was before the iPhone. Like, when I was in
Mhm.
college, Facebook came out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, 100%, you're right, but
Yeah.
shout out to Robert McGinn, Professor Robert McGinn, who started that program.
Wow. He
Amazing
had that
professor.
foresight to
Yeah,
know
yeah,
this was
exactly.
coming. Yeah. So, when you think about that degree before knowing what you know now, what was your thoughts as a college student with that degree? Like, for you to even have been attracted to it, and what has resonated with you since?
Yeah. Well, I think there were 2 components. I mean, like, again, I just feel so fortunate that, the path that I was exposed to growing up happened to actually coincide very closely, like, overlap very closely with my area of passion. So, like, number 1, some of that I didn't even really see as a choice. I saw as, like, a smart decision, but not a
Right,
personal choice. You know what I mean? But
right.
it worked out for me. And then I think the other component for me was just, like, the contextual application of technology,
Mhm.
And it's been something I've been thinking about a lot, and I think it's a big reason why I'm attracted to the accounting professional community, if I'm honest, is, like, when you work on a software platform that lots of people use, sometimes it's easy to, like, homogenize your customer, and it's hard to humanize them?
Yeah.
But when you're working with accountants, they will let you know. Like, they will let you know what's up and how well or poorly you're doing. Like, they're very direct and transparent about it, and I think the reason I was, really into STS is it gave you the science, technology, and society, it gave you, like, purview to explore that,
Mhm.
um, which over the course of my career just, like, anchored me further and further into this accounting professional community that welcomes you in that way. Like, they wanna be
Mhm.
studied. They want you to
Right.
study them, you know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
I've always appreciated, and I think that's generally given me a leg up?
Yeah. In your viewpoint, that intersection of science, technology, and society, like, what is the guiding light that you go by with that?
I mean, the biggest one is that technology isn't developed in a vacuum?
Mhm.
Any tech that exists is not, unbiased.
Mhm.
Everything you see is biased by the society it comes from, people it's built for, the way that it's iterated on, the rules and governance that exist around it, like, all of it shows up in the tech, which I think is
Mhm.
especially telling and interesting in today's world with generative AI and, uh,
Yeah.
these amazing companies that are standing up and doing things that nobody's ever done before, and, just thinking about, like, how to eliminate the inherent bias that exists in those technologies and, like, leverage it for, the good of broader community. Like, all of that is really interesting to me, so it's a
Yeah.
good background to have at a time like this.
It's a hard question to answer because at the end of the day, a product targets a market.
Yeah.
So it's hard to ever not segment it to whoever you're trying to attract.
Yeah,
So
good
that's
point.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you graduated, where did you end up?
So my first job out of college was actually, at a different Renee Lacerte company, so I'm at Hill now, but it was at PayCycle, which
Yeah.
was this little startup, just,
Mhm.
dozens of employees, I think, and it was actually in customer service.
Oh, okay.
And uh it's a long story how I got there, but I had another offer. It was in development. I was gonna code for another company. And when I went to college, my mom had a baby. And so at home, I had a sister who was very, very young. And I was thinking about like leaving the state to go work for this other place. I was part of the kind of support team for my family in lots of different ways. I was just thinking, like, how am I going to make this work? Like leaving the state to go do this thing. And I decided at the end of the day, like, I couldn't. And so I had to turn down that offer. And but I had to work. I was in a position where it was like, oh, student loans, got to work. You know what I mean? Got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I was looking around for what I wanted to do. And because this was so late in the hiring cycle, it was actually like well after graduation, everybody had settled their roles. Kind of found myself doing a take two and saying, okay, well, what can I do to stay working? And then I can figure out what I really want to do. And I'll look for that in parallel. And so I took a job in customer service, and I took that job because the interview panel was amazing. Like panel blew my mind. Like there were engineering leaders who actually I ended up working with for like 20 plus years after that. Just the fact that they were on a hiring panel for a tier 1 customer service agent, I was like, what is this company? Like the care that they put into making sure that people were the right cultural fit. And I could tell through the interviews and the questions that they were asking that they were brilliant and they thought very differently than I thought. And I was like, I want to be around that. Like, yeah, I want to go do that. Let me go work with these people. And it was less about the work. I was not excited about the work. I really, honestly, it was like a blow to my ego. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in customer service. I don't know about that. Like I went through all this education, but I wanted to be around those people. So I took the job. And what shocked me is how much I loved that job. I loved that job, Amy. I still think about the job. I got so much fulfillment from it. It was a payroll company. When people are, upset about payroll, when something's not going right, I mean, that's like a mortgage that might not get paid. It's a big deal. And so you'd get these calls from folks that were like 10 out of 10 upset, and to be in a position where I could help get them to a point, where things were going to be okay. Oh my God, that was so fulfilling for me. But the funny thing was, like, I couldn't end it there. So the things that they were calling about, I would just turn around and go talk to those engineers and be like, hey, we got to go fix this. Like, this is not working. Like, we got to go solve these problems. And they'd start riffing with me on like how to solve them. One point, I got a tap on the shoulder from somebody who said, hey, that thing you're doing, it's called product management. Maybe you should go do that. And then I moved into product management not long after that, and I never looked back. I didn't even know PM was a thing. Didn't even know it existed. But the role of like understanding your customers, understanding the market, figuring out what their needs are, turning that into products that solve real problems that a company can grow from. Was it. I like my entire career was really built from that point. It was born at that point and built from that point,
Isn't that interesting? Like, how we find what we enjoy, because it's so hard to know, like something like that. I'm sure in your head every day I was like, I graduated from Stanford when you first took that job. And, and when we actually just allow the process in and liking a job. I know when I was in college, everyone told me you have to go into public accounting because internal audit isn't as great of a path.
Yeah.
And I went into public accounting, but then to move to Florida, I got this role in internal audit and they were going to move me to Florida. And so I was like, oh, I'll just suck it up. It's going to be, and that ended up being like that job that opened my eyes. And that's why you just always have to be open to each experience and, to your point, grateful.
I totally agree.
Because it can totally shift your perspective of the way your path goes.
I don't know anyone who's had a straight path, like not a single person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. So, so once you got into product management there, so were you at Intuit because Intuit acquired them, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
PayCycle got bought by Intuit. I was in Intuit for many years. I left for a little stint, and then I came back to Intuit, and then I chose to move on to Bill.
So, and come back to Renee.
Yeah, that was not an accident.
So what got you excited about coming back to Bill? Or
Oh, man. I mean, look, just that anecdote I just shared with you about, like, being in a position, I was a support agent, and I could go talk to the engineers, and they would listen to me because they
Mhm,
cared, about our customers very deeply, and we would solve problems quickly. Like, that is the culture I knew that Renee
mhm,
creates at his companies. The time that I came back to Bill, I'd also been working for accounting professionals for many, many, many years. And, knowing the principled approach and the value that he places on accounting professionals, like, was very attractive to me. I felt like I could do what I knew needed to get done for the community, through that transition. And I was also just at a point in my life, Amy, where, like, I had just had 2 kids, like, I was looking for change at work, like, I had been at Intuit for so long, and Intuit was great. I mean, they did an awesome job of investing in me, and I really enjoyed my time there, but there was so much change happening in my personal life that I was ready to mirror that change professionally. So it all just
mhm.
and then, like, just as I'm thinking that, I get the call from Renee. It all, just happened really, it just all kinda came together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how, like, would you say a culture? Because obviously Bill has scaled to a much larger company and
Uh,
than when you started at PayCycle. So to keep that culture as a leader, because things can get bureaucratic or people start building their fiefdoms and protecting information. What have you learned yourself and advise others to keep a culture like that where you can solve things quickly and make sure people are heard?
yeah. Oh, what a great question. I think the things that I've learned are there's a few things. My mind is going to a few places. The,
Mhm,
the first is I think it's really important that you give people big roles and hold them accountable.
mhm,
And so it's about, like, a lot of leadership in my mind is about creating a high degree of autonomy, like principled autonomy. Give people the principles within which to make decisions, give them a lot of autonomy over a really well-defined space and hold them accountable to the outcomes. It's
mhm,
amazing what teams can do
mhm,
and how they can, really go attack the problems at the root of the issues that you're experiencing or that customers may be experiencing. I think another is you do a lot of it by example. So things like, when you're working at any company, it's really easy for what the business is solving for, like finance driven versus customer driven.
mhm,
Like, especially in the world of, like, when you're doing something for your customers, like product development or any service level role, like, our job is to keep our customer center focused. And I genuinely believe that the way you grow is to deliver experiences to your customers that nobody else can, like deliver value, more value. And that's how you set the stage for growth. So you mirror that. Like you exude that in every conversation you're in, you role model it, you ask questions about the customer, you make sure when you're inspecting the work, when you're coaching your team, you're inspecting on the degree of understanding they have about the problem and how they're leveraging that knowledge to create creative solutions that differentiate us in the market. That's my brand of leadership. You know what I mean?
mhm. So when you say give autonomy, like, can you give an example, like, with accountability? Because I think that can be perceived in so many different ways.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. When I joined Bill, there's a really strong team here that I inherited. They're awesome. Very passionate. Really understand the customer. Really understand the product. Some of them are CPAs themselves. Very connected to the broader community. When I joined, one of our ambitions was to expand our addressable market to include larger businesses. So how to
Mhm,
make sure that Bill serves the needs of the lower mid-market. And, there are a few dimensions of that. We have some amazing multi-entity experiences that we've launched. We've got some procurement experiences that we've launched for the first time ever in a financial operations platform, expanding to include some of these spaces. So it's exciting to see the thinking that was already here. One of the things that I observed was that the person who was accountable for the multi-entity work was a different person than, the person accountable for procurement. And that's okay if what you're after is a great multi-entity experience and a great procurement experience. But if what your job is to think about what it's going to take to win in the mid-market, and those are just two features that happen to live in your world, but your job is to really unlock the mid-market, then you're not so insular, just focused on those things. You now have a charter to challenge yourself. Yes, those
Mhm.
things, but are they the most important? Are there other things we should be doing as well? Are you resourced enough to actually unlock that opportunity? And if not, get loud and noisy because I'm going to hold you accountable to that as the outcome. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just like expanding the role in that way, led the team to propose some additional investment opportunities that we had to deliver even more value to our customers. And I'll give Richard Korn full credit for this, but we now have he's the member of my team that I chartered with this, like a very robust view of what it's going to take for us to meet the needs of those customers beyond just making excellent multi-entity experience and excellent procurement experience, which we have.
Right. And I think that happens a lot where when there's not a vision for the total journey, what happens is people start solving in different ways
Yeah,
and or even duplicating work between those teams because it's very hard to not worry about the other thing too.
totally.
But they end up having to then they're like, "Wait, we've got 3 people doing this in the organization," instead of, like, making
100%.
it as efficient as possible.
100%.
Yeah. And then how do you hold them accountable, once you have that you're giving them the autonomy to solve and be creative, but what are you holding them accountable to?
To the outcomes that we expect to release. So it's important for me to be, when I think about the pillars of my like leadership style, like just a degree of directness and transparency is like inherent to who I am.
Mhm.
Um, so I try to create that for my team. Like we have very upfront conversations before any work happens. I'm giving you this charter, and here's what I expect from you. And that's a conversation. It's not a dictation. It's like this is what I think we need to do in the market. There's a discussion that we have about what it is we're trying to accomplish, and then we get broader alignment that this is the mission of this team. So it's not just me and my employee who think that's their job. Everybody at the company understands that, which gives them a really broad charter for them to ask for what they need, even beyond our team. Because there's almost nothing you could do at any company that doesn't require some level of cross-functional collaboration. So we start by getting very, very tight on the outcomes. And usually this is a combination of like very clear outcomes for customers. Like, what is this going to mean for the customers we serve, and outcomes for the business, right? In this case, it was things like, hey, we never want an accounting professional to feel like bill doesn't work for any client within their portfolio. It's got to work for every client in their portfolio. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to hold you accountable to this, Richard, is, to make sure that when we, connect with these firms, that they don't have, when you look at like their view of which customers are right for bill, and they're like making a decision about whether bill is right for their client, that the AP, like the mid-market customers don't have any exit path. Like it's a good match. It's a good market fit for any one of their clients if they choose to use us. Just using that as an example.
Mhm.
But yeah, so those are just some examples of the ways that I do that. That's how you set it up front, and then on an ongoing basis, you're just connecting on what's getting in their way from achieving those outcomes. And the end of the cycle, it's just you look at the numbers. Did we do it or not?
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, as far as your coding and how much you enjoyed coding, where do you get to enjoy that now, or do you still dabble in it anywhere?
It's funny. Yeah, I do. I mean, for sure, especially now, like I'm like very detached from like the most modern like developer languages. Like I'm not super plugged in, but now that we have, with the advent of generative AI, you don't need to know how to code in order to code, right? So it's like
Mhm.
so
Yep.
I've really been dabbling in some of that. But then on top of that, I'm a gamer. I just like I love computers. I love, what they can do, and so I'm like stayed very connected to the gaming world, which just gives you a sense for like how gaming is often on the cutting edge of technology. So you could really see it's a great source of inspiration for me. Uh,
Uh-huh.
even in things like how to communicate with like when you're gaming. The information on any screen is exactly what you need to know in that moment, in that millisecond time. It's
Oh, that's
exactly
true.
what you
Yeah.
need. You could get so much inspiration from those contexts, especially when thinking about working for accounting professionals. Like at any given time, you want to make them feel like they have complete control over whatever the workflow is that they're in. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
All the information at their fingertips without being overwhelming. They're focused on a task, don't get in their way, but they need to have at their fingertips access to whatever it is that they might want. So I find a lot of parallels in gaming and product design. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a game that
I've
you
been
like
playing
right
Dune these days. I don't know. I could list a few, but probably Dune is the big one.
now? What do you like about it?
There are like a few layers to it. Like you could focus on resource management, you could focus on building, you could focus on exploration. Like so any, I could
Mhm.
fit honestly, the number one thing I like about it is I could fit it into the life I have. So like gone are the days when I have hours I could sit down and play a video game, right? I got a 2 and a 5-year-old at home. So like, if I have 30 minutes, that's pretty amazing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To be able to get something
Yeah.
done. That's probably what I like the most about
And
it.
then you can tune out and just be in that world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, for, like, small bits of time versus, like, some, like, large chunk, which a lot of the games require these days, which I cannot do.
So, as far as, you brought up two big values that I heard over and over again, which is education and gratitude.
Yeah.
How do you apply that now for yourself and for your teams?
The education is just, like, a lifelong thing for me, like and it's
Mhm.
actually, like, very important as a PM that you have the humility to know that you don't know everything, and if
Mm.
there's ego in a PM, not gonna cut it.
Yes.
Like, you've gotta let your customers guide you, and so that learning mindset and that, like, curiosity to always, understand, learn what you don't know, understand why things are the way they are, like, really pressure test whether things have to be the way they used to be or if they can evolve. Like, it just so happens that that is, like, a foundational core skill set of PM, and in fact, when I hire or even early career PMs, like, I don't even I rarely assess for, like, concrete skills in early career
Yeah.
PMs, like, I don't care if you know how to write requirements, I don't care if you can put together a research brief, because I know you can learn that, so long as you have some of the raw materials, and
Mhm.
this is an example of it. It's very hard to teach, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Humility and openness and learning, it's very hard to teach that, but
Yep.
have that, you'll this is a career for you. So that's that one, that's education, and the other one you mentioned was
Gratitude.
gratitude. That one is, I would say that helps in a different way. It's the first I'd say it's the combination of gratitude and, like, the keen awareness that you have access or that I have access to so much, and it, like, creates a drive in me, just
Mhm.
this very strong drive. So it's this combo gratitude and what am I gonna do with it, right? Like the very next thought. I think the way that that shows up for me is just being very mission driven, like, aware of the opportunity we have. I know the challenge that small businesses have in terms of being successful. I know that. And I know that accounting professionals are the number one partners that they have to succeed. The
Mhm.
gratitude I have that I'm in it not alone, but with this community in service of the small and mid-sized businesses, like
Mhm.
that's something that I try to echo with my team. And I think it gives us a really strong sense of purpose. And then, of course, just tactically beyond like just purpose, mission driven work and just being like wired for that. I think the other component for me is also being wired to recognize good work when it's happening. I think my team has appreciated that for me over time. I have a really high bar. Like, I hold my team to the same impossible bar that I hold myself. They know it, and it's tiring. It's exhausting, but it's also
Mhm.
really rewarding. And so
Yeah.
being able to do both, like hold a high bar, let people know like what it is that we have to achieve, what does winning look like, and then just taking the time to reflect and celebrate the progress that we made, I think
I
is
love that.
helped to rally people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, how do you make space for this big role
Oh
and
my god.
yeah.
Oh my god. Look, I don't know that I have anything new to add to this component of the conversation. I
Yeah.
feel like I have an insatiable desire to learn from others in this space because I have not figured it out, but, like, somebody at some point, maybe I had one kid, or maybe it was before I had kids, had said, like, it's like, look, it's not like there's no such thing as balance. It's like a daily thing, like every day. And I don't think I understood that, but now I understand that. Like,
Yeah.
more visceral appreciation for the fact that this is a moving target. And, with such young kids, every 6 months is different, and what they need from me is different. And
Mhm.
I try not to my nature, I'm a planner by nature, so I try to
Mhm.
stay away from that, because there is no way I can control the outcome of anything that is happening for me at this stage in my life with my
Right.
family. So I think I'm just like, is very much like, the approach I take is like, like, tackle it one at a time, and lean on my husband, on my partner. Simon's
Mhm.
amazing. He is definitely the primary parent. He takes care of a lot at home. I'm so lucky to be in a position where I have a partner as supportive as that, because I love my work. I love my work.
Mhm.
I get so much fulfillment from it. And it's only, through that, like, daily task management and the balance, that I find with him. Like, he's, definitely the yin to my yang. So just through that, been able to find some level of stability, but I don't know that I'm on solid ground. So still
Yeah.
figuring it out.
I don't think there is a point you ever feel you
No.
are, but I think that is really important that I think is left out of the conversation a lot is the communication that needs to happen
Oh,
between parents of what you need and what they need, and
totally.
make sure that everyone can accomplish, like, what they want to feel good as a person, because it gets hard to feel good when there's just so much.
Sure. Totally. Yeah.
It's a
I
human condition. So, what are you most excited about coming up with Bill, this year, the coming months?
Oh my gosh, there's so much I'm excited about. I think what I'm most excited about is just the reality that, we're at the brink of reinventing core workflows that will enable us to build a financial operations platform that, just enables your team to scale so much. I mean, with the advent of agentic experiences and building so hard into it, I'm very, very excited for what this means for our space. We invented a category and we are reinventing it. And
Mm.
also for the community. Look, as far as I can remember, as long ago as I can remember, the community has been talking about moving into advisory, driving efficiencies. The scale of what we're seeing now, the leaps that we're seeing now that really truly enable that are absolutely unreal. This is a resilient community. This is a strong community. There is such deep need for the skill set of this community that I'm optimistic that we'll finally get to a place in our lifetimes where, maybe even before that, in the next few years, where the need for this profession is actually well matched to the capacity. In other words, there's been so much more need for accounting professionals and their skill sets than there has been capacity. And I'm hoping and optimistic that the work that Bill does, and that's enabled through agentic experience, will help get us to a place of better matching the opportunity versus the need.
So, what does that mean for people that might not be clear on what agentic experience means, or what your perception of that is in
Oh,
Bill?
100%. So look, I envision a world where a lot of the task-based work that happens in AP, AR, expense management, procurement is handled through agents that follow a set of guidelines that accounting professionals themselves set. That there are humans that are involved in the processes to the degree that you're interested in doing so, and that the work itself happens in the background. There's no extraction that needs to get done. There's no data entry that needs to get done. There's no tracking down of bills. There's no risk protection additional work that needs to get done. It's just optimized for you based on your rules, and
Mhm.
based on your guidance, and based on Bill's position. I mean, we have the benefit of seeing billions of bills through our system. 1% of GDP moves through Bill. The scale that we have to recommend for you what we believe the right actions are absolutely unmatched. So, to take the power and the scale of our platform and the capabilities that are continually growing on our platform, and to automate them to the degree where accounting professionals' roles become, you know, to set up and manage the system versus day to day execution, is extremely exciting for me. Because I think what that means is it frees up accounting professionals to do what you do best, which is provide some contextual guidance to your clients based on your knowledge set versus kind of the tactical execution of the work. So that's the world that I envision, is the world that we're building toward.
That's awesome. So I like to wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, please.
You get to pick a category, which is family and friends, money, spiritual, or health.
Okay. Say them one more time. Family, friends, money.
Money, spiritual, or health.
I'm going to do family and friends.
Okay. Things or actions I don't have that I want with my family and friends.
Things or actions. I'm going to say, can I get fantastical with this?
Yes,
Okay. I'm
I
going to say,
love it.
do you know Harry Potter? Have you read the books? Do you watch the movies?
No.
Okay. There is a device that Hermione Granger, the smarty pants of the group, uses called a time turner. And she just
Okay.
twists this little dial and it lets her go back to any point in time. I would love to have a full day at work, a full day to do what I want to do at work, and a full day to do what I want to do at home. That would be
Uh-huh. I love it. And that's such a great visual. Things or actions I do have that I want to keep.
Oh. So in my house, I recently, it's funny, Amy. I know this is supposed to be rapid fire. There's gonna be 30
That's
seconds.
totally fine. Yeah.
I love the home that I've built. I love design. I love interior design. I never actually designed my own bedroom. Like, I think I've had like my college furniture for my own bedroom. Like, not college, but like shortly after. Like, I
Yeah.
just never went and
Exactly.
changed it until this year. It was very intentional, and I really designed it. And one of the things that I designed into our bedroom is a cuddle couch, which
Oh,
is like a couch, like a super amazing couch that's big enough for all of us to just jump on,
love
watch
it.
a movie on. We got, the cozy blankets. It's so perfect, and I love it, and it's like the addition to our lives. I'm so happy with it.
Isn't it funny how we do our room the last? Like that always
So
seems
bad. I know. I don't know why I waited this long.
took
Like,
me
it's
like
so
20
nice to have
years
that
too.
serenity.
Yeah, and then you feel so good once you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's that importance of taking care of yourself before you take care of others, right? So you could take better care of others. Things or actions I don't have that I don't want.
Okay. I have this anxiety that my children, 2 and 5, at some point will, get along so well. It's like unreal how
Huh.
well these 2 kids get along. And I have this fear that at some point they may not get along well. So sibling squabbles. I do not want it. I am afraid of it. I want peace in my house. I am not interested in sibling squabbles.
All right, don't let them.
Okay.
Things or actions that I do have that I don't want.
I don't wanna clean. I don't wanna clean. I don't wanna clean anything. I don't wanna clean people. I don't wanna clean dishes or floors or clothes. Like, I care very much that things are clean,
Right.
but I don't want to clean.
That's totally fair. Anything else that we haven't covered during this interview that you wanna make sure people leave with or that you say that we haven't talked about?
Look, this was really fun, Amy. The one thing I would say, especially if, any of the folks on the line are thinking about career switches or early career experiences or, any of those positions, is whatever decisions that you make are not final decisions. Like,
Mhm.
every chapter is a chapter, and try to follow like your natural curiosity. People say passion. I don't know. Whatever, like, what are you curious about? Who do you want to learn from? Those are the
Mhm.
2 things that have guided me throughout my career. Like, who do you want to learn from? People have skills that you don't have. And what are you curious about? What do you want to learn? Has always been such a good guiding light for me as I've been making like decisions throughout my career.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know that I've ever thought about it that way because I kinda go, "Ooh," like, I get excited, but part of that is that you want if they can't answer that question of what you're gonna learn or how you're gonna grow and expand, like, it's a hard decision, and then you're going against that gut feeling of, like, "I'm not gonna feel good."
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and being on today, and I know there's so much that people will take away from this and be able to apply at their work and life.
Oh, thank you, Amy. This was fun.
And now for my mindful moments with this discussion with Ariege. I hope all of you were able to take away some great little tidbits of knowledge to not only help you in life, but help you as a leader. I know I did. And I loved her story of her immigrant parents and what they taught her of just appreciating and having gratitude for everything that she had and understanding the differences of what she had versus her family that had not immigrated and the differences in how they lived. And each day having that wonder of the abundance that she felt, even when there was, by all sense of the imagination, maybe little abundance. But she had that with her family. She had that with her opportunities in this world and the opportunities that her parents gave her as well. And along those lines, she really learned things from both her parents, her father being an engineer, where she really got exposed to computers and building computers and seeing the type of work that was. And her mom going on this journey of really taking advantage of being in America, growing her skills and education as her kids got older as well, and putting herself through college and becoming a teacher, which was awe-inspiring for Ariege as well. But I think one of the two most important things that came out of this was the values that her family instilled in her of education and gratitude. And you really got a sense of that no matter what Ariege has done in her career and her life, of her strong feeling to really be able to be open to learning and not get too stuck in the way things are, that there's always new ways of doing things and solving things and brainstorming with other people of how to solve problems. And that really created her curiosity that led her into her role today. So even though she went on that path of becoming a computer coder, she really by accident fell into this customer service role in one of Renee's earlier companies and learned that problem solving and working with product was where her passion was. And that started her product management journey into where she is today. And I think these things are so important because we can get thrown off our path of what we think is success or what we envision as success and pivot in other ways, and then find new areas of opportunity that maybe we didn't even realize existed. And that area of opportunity actually aligned with her value system and her passions. And you could see and hear from her as well of how excited she got talking about these things as well. The other thing that we talked about was gratitude, and really having that mindset, even when things are hard, of just how fortunate you are in this moment. And things could be so much worse. And there are so many people that do not have the things that we have. And it's important when we look at the world with abundance versus in a negative standpoint of what we don't have versus what we do have and what is available and what we can work toward. It can totally change how we feel about life and our career and our outlook, just really about anything. That has helped her as a leader. And we talked about how you bring that in to leadership by demonstrating it, that we can't just say these words of gratitude or continuous education and curiosity and learning without doing it ourselves to make it believable and so someone has something to model after. So really important examples that she shared of how she does that in leadership by giving people autonomy and allowing them to be able to solve for these issues, giving them the objective of what they need to solve, but not necessarily how to get there, which I think is important for people to enjoy the work that they're doing, that they feel like they were part of the process and they contributed as well. So as you walk away from this interview and the stories that Ariege told, I hope that maybe you can look at where you could start getting curious, where you could start being grateful, and maybe thinking about how this would shift your mindset if you were able to just realize that things don't have to be the way they were yesterday, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that there is always an opportunity to shift and change and reinvent what we do, whether that be at work, whether that be at home, but not closing ourselves off to the new things that are coming because maybe there's fear in that. Maybe we're worried we won't be good enough. And instead of letting the monkey mind go, that we actually open ourselves up to that opportunity and think about what's possible, what we get to do versus what we can't control. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Ariege. I know I did. And I think there's so many exciting things coming, and you can definitely tell with having a person like Ariege as a leader in her area, how much innovation is going to happen in the future that it's going to benefit the profession overall. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Breaking Beliefs podcast. I hope you will take a moment to pause before entering back into your day to reflect on this podcast and note 1 to 2 actions you are inspired to do from today's conversation that you could incorporate into your life. To read the full blog and listen back to this episode or any other, you can find them at www.amyvetter.com/Breaking Beliefs podcast and related videos on my YouTube channel. For daily inspiration, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Amy Vetter CPA. I hope that you will choose to like this and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and more so that you can join us for more inspiration on our next episode.